Andy's here.
Ready, Carl?
Yes, we are, Chief.
All right. Good day, everyone. For those of you in the morning and in the afternoon, I'd like to bring the ICC Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee meeting of December 16th to order. Carl, can you please do a roll call?
Sure will. Chief Reed.
Here.
Chief Adams. Marshal Boisford.
Yes, sir, present.
Gotcha. Chief Buxton.
I am here, thank you.
You, Chief Cowan. Fire Marshal Desrochers.
Here, sir.
Tim Deal. Christine, I think he's going to be a little late joining us. He's finishing an appointment, if I remember correctly. So.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Brzezinski. Eric Brzezinski. Chief Hyde, but he's still having trouble getting in. Chief King.
I saw him in the room with Gary.
Yep. Chief Lane gave me a call. They've got the telestaff woes like most of the country, so he's working that and may not be able to join us today. Kelly Nicolello. Kelly Nicolello. Marshal Core Porter. Steve Swarthout. I saw him earlier.
I am present.
Gotcha. Yep, they're still with us. Chief Wassom.
I'm here, Carl.
Gotcha. And Chief West. And do it. Yeah, we're doing here. And I've also, Brian Adams is trying to get in, so I'll send him the link here in just a moment. Too. So let's take a look here. Looks like we've got a quorum, Chief. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. I do also would like to recognize that we have 3 directors attending this meeting with us. So thank you all for your attendance, Director Brown, Director Sayers, and Director Metz. So I would like to get right into our guest presentation. I would like to introduce Chief John Tippett. He is the Director of Fire Service Programs with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Welcome. I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you all for the invitation, the opportunity to address the group. I want to just share some information. Carl asked me to give you a little bit of an overview of what's going on with the Research Agenda Symposium report out, and then an update from the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. So if you'll just accommodate me for a second here, I get to the right share screen. Let's see here. It's going to allow me to play, Raul. Let's see. Okay, hoping everybody can see that part of the presentation there. And I'll go through some of the elements of what happened with the Research Agenda Symposium. So this was the first all virtual symposium that we conducted. We tried to get it off the ground in 2019. That didn't work. Tried to pull it together in 2020. That didn't quite work. And then we went to an all virtual opportunity. So the process for this one spanned from October of 2020 to March of 2021. The planning committee worked until February of 2021 to get all the bugs ironed out for the virtual presentation. We used the CVent platform, which worked really well for us. The sessions opened up in February and they ran all the way through March. So we had an opening session, and then the various working groups had an opportunity to work through the questions and come up with their recommendations through until about early March 9th or March 10th. They did a report out to a jury, which was the same process we had used in a previous research agenda symposium. And then the jury did a report out. They jury's work went to a report writer. You're probably wondering, how was it that the report writer was tasked back in March and we still haven't seen the final report? Some circumstances beyond anyone's wildest dreams or control forced us to end up getting a second report writer. So that report writer had to be spun up. And we're looking to have the report completed and published right after the first of the year. So give you a little bit of a background about how this all laid out. The program planning committee got together. It was a group of researchers, fire service people, and some people of interest in the fire service. And they created 3 domains of where research was needed in the fire service. It fell into 3 buckets: was hiring, retention, and advancement, effective operations, and health and safety. In the last research agenda symposium, there were far more topics than the previous one. And one of the recommendations that came out of the last report was because of the way they were formed, it was problematic for researchers and funding, because there was a sense that if an item was listed as number 1, that got all the attention, and it could have been items down in the 45th or 48th or the 50th or the 100th recommendation that never saw the light of day because they just weren't considered high enough. So the program group put those 3 domains together. They created an overarching question. There were topical areas that fell into those domains. And then the elements that affected each of the domains were cut across in all the groups. So if you look at this chart, I hope you're able to see that. It shows that data, technology, effectiveness measures, types of research needed, the disciplines of research, which was a new category and created quite a bit of conversation, and then public policy and social science inclusion, because there was a recommendation and a recognition on the part of the program committee that we were missing some components when it came to getting research done. So if we look at the hiring, retention, advancement, it seems pretty simple. Getting people to come into the job or the vocation, how do you keep them, and then how do you keep them interested and help them grow? The topic areas, you see recruitment is broken down career, volunteer, and then there's advancement and effective leadership. Those were considered 2 separate entities there. And then the overarching diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging has its own bucket there. Effective operations, everything was condensed up to under there. That included community risk reduction. So it was everything from how do you prevent an event from occurring to how do we deal with it most effectively and get everybody back to where they belong in one piece. And then the health and safety element was the final component, and that was also an umbrella element there. So with that, the working groups emphasized again that none of the recommendations were to be prioritized. They were just to be listed, and they were randomly put in numerical order. And again, there's going to be a strong emphasis in the report that just because an item is number 26, it doesn't mean that it's less important than item number 1. So the other research disciplines, there was a brain dump put together of the research group and the program planning group, and they came up with a very long list of people that needed to be enjoined to come into the research community for the fire service. And I have a short list of the elements there, but just about every letter of the alphabet was covered in the group. Some that seemed to be very far afield, some that seemed to make the most sense. But in talking to fire departments that had successful programs, they said they had worked well with, for instance, their public policy committee, or they had retained a sociologist to help them with some of their advancement and officer development programs. And then, of course, there's the general statistics, technology, engineering, business administration, all those elements there. There's a sense within the fire service that we continue to do a good job of teaching people how to put fires out, but we still haven't mastered how to create great leaders, how to create great fire service managers. Just because somebody becomes a great captain or a great battalion chief, that doesn't mean they're the great chief of department. But we've spent a lot of time and energy and effort saying, well, if this person was a tough firefighter or a great company officer, then they've got all it takes to be a chief of department. Maybe they're just the best captain they could be. So within the domains, you'll see that there were 7 recommendations out of the jury's review. They had 125 potential research topics that came. They're called focuses, and I'm going to delve directly with the community risk reduction segment, since that's probably the most near and dear to the audience. But in domain 1, about people, hiring, keeping, retaining, and that's hiring doesn't necessarily mean career. 125 potential research topics out there that need to be looked at. Domain 2, the effective operations. There were 9 recommendations with 94 research topics potentially, and domain 3, which is interesting because it's the health and safety, that had the fewest number of recommendations and also the fewest potential research topics. And just anecdotally looking through the report, I think that probably has a lot to do with the fact there's been a major emphasis in the fire service on health and safety. And it was a sense among the participants that we have made some progress and accomplished some things there. So we look at the community risk reduction element, for instance. It's in the effective operations domain. There were 2 recommendations out of the jury report, or these are 2 of the recommendations. Research is needed for broader programs involving public health and safety. And this may seem pretty straightforward, but they haven't been explored in far more communities than not. Talking about the affordability of fire protection, we're all well aware of what happens when you try to introduce sprinkler legislation into a community. The second recommendation there was research conducted in conjunction with NFPA, their annual data and report, and USFA, talking about the effect of building codes, protection standards, enforcement, testing, and maintenance. So, and again, this is probably something we're dealing with, or we do deal with on a daily basis, but there are places out there that are doing really bang up jobs with it. There are other places out there that are struggling to get even the most limited elements of protection put in place. And part of the effective operations element is also trying to convince firefighters that effective codes are for their benefit as well as just the community. So if you look at a couple of the focuses, and this is just a snapshot of a couple of those, in public education and CRR, for instance, there were 3 recommendations there for research. How can the fire service better disseminate messages to the public? How do we get through all the noise of what's happening in social media so that people will take notice of the elements that matter there? And then in risk assessment, for instance, if we look at number 208, what can be learned from cities that have significantly reduced their fire-related deaths? Is what's the science there, as opposed to has it just happened by luck of the draw? And then models of successful code enforcement that can be replicated.
You're on mute, sir.
John, you got put on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I must have had my hit the wrong key there. So that's kind of a really quick snapshot. The report is somewhere in the range of about 90 some pages. There's probably a good maybe 10 to 15 pages worth of real meat. A lot of the rest of it is supporting material and explanation of process. And again, like I said, it'll be out right after the first of the year. It'll actually be ready slightly before that, but we figured not a lot of people are paying attention to things around the holidays, so we thought we'd hold until after the first of the new year. So on the NFFF side of the house, the broad brush side of the house, Memorial Weekend was held this year in person. Came off without a hitch. We combined 2019 and 2020 together. Since we had missed 2019, we had about 105 families between the 2 years show up. As you can well imagine, there was a lot of concern about COVID. A lot of people expressed concern about gathering as a crowd, and we also had another group of people that were not happy about the fact that we were requiring either vaccination or proof of negative test. But all that said, 105 families came to Emmitsburg and were honored. Next year, 2022, we will be returning to Emmitsburg in October, and then 2023. We'll be shifting the memorial service to sometime in May. Excuse me. October has just become a real nail biter for us. The threat of the government closing down is always something that just puts added unnecessary stress. So we can, if we move out of October and go to May, that's not a problem there, and we can conduct our memorial service with in somewhat better weather, we think. Because October can be pretty dicey in Emmitsburg. And we also don't bump up against some of the other issues that are happening there. On the family program side, family programs is just now getting back to doing in-person gatherings. They still have quite a few virtual gatherings going on. One thing we've learned over the 2 years is that some of our programs translate okay to a virtual environment, and others just don't work worth a darn. Unless you're actually in person. So they're pretty happy about being able to get back out. Scholarships will be announced. The scholarship program will be announced coming up shortly. And they're fully well back on their feet and moving along. Fire service programs, the shop that I'm responsible for, is also doing the same thing. We're getting back out to do some more in-person training. Fire departments have loosened up on their requirements of allowing outside entities to come in. We have an agreement with Cintas Corporation, excuse me, to do some strategic training at some of their sites. And we have a couple of new programs coming out for the Fire Hero Learning Network, one for safety and training, and one a rudimentary training program for wildland firefighters. Documentary on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 was completed. I'd encourage you to go take a look at that on our YouTube channel. We do have another documentary in the works with Los Angeles City Fire that's about to be completed on the Boyd Street fire. A lot of the credit for the firefighters surviving that event, even though some were critically injured, is being attributed to practices they put in place after the Nathan Espinoza event, which was the first program we did with them. I think that probably wraps things up in a nutshell. There's about 55 programs working in fire service programs, and probably an equal number in family programs as well. So a lot of things happening there. So any questions?
Carl, I just was going to ask really quick, maybe you could go into a little bit more depth on the preventing the preventable piece. And I know our folks would be super interested in the code piece that you and I talked about last week, if you had a second on that.
Yes, thanks for the reminder. One of the elements, as I mentioned in the report, on the research agenda report, there was a suggestion that some greater effort needs to be put towards the structural and even wildland firefighters. Giving them an appreciation for what the codes mean. So the tack that we're taking is it's important for you as a structural firefighter to go into a building and make sure the building is safe, so that when it catches on fire, if it catches on fire, you have the best chance of surviving that event. So preventing the preventable has a two-part or two-prong approach. There's an element that's directed towards the community. Make your occupancy safe, make your community safe, so that firefighters aren't killed and injured when they have to do their jobs. And then on the firefighter side of it, you have an obligation and a responsibility even if you have no interest in building codes, then you still need to make sure the structure is safe and sound so that when it catches on fire, you have the best chance of surviving that event. So we did a pilot of it, pilot delivery of the program at Fire Rescue International, and it was very well received. In the Cintas program that I mentioned, we have about 4 deliveries on tap for that, and that's going to be the first rollout of the larger scale delivery. And so far, the pilots that we've done just on the sidebar have been pretty well received as well. So kind of excited about it. It's a new and different approach. We typically marry that presentation up with a leadership presentation and a strategy and tactics component so that we can give the firefighters attending a full appreciation for everything that's about their job.
Thanks for that. Are there any other questions for Chief Tippett? I actually have one more as well too, but I don't know if you'll be able to answer it. Which is, can you give us a glimpse as to maybe some of the emerging trends and themes that you're seeing in the research agenda project? Maybe not some concrete answers as to where it's headed, but just some themes that you're seeing, generally speaking, for the fire service that we need to look into. Yes,
retention is a big deal across the spectrum. Departments across the country are seeing a reduction in applications on the career side. Reductions on the volunteer side. People are just not volunteering to do that kind of work, especially if there's a significant number of hours involved in training. There's also a sense that part of the reason people are leaving the fire service, departments are doing exit interviews or saying leadership is letting them down. So whether it's a grumpy captain or a battalion chief that isn't happy being a battalion chief, that's having a trickle down effect on the mindset of those new and young people that are coming into the department. So that is going to be, I think, a significant element on the retention side, hiring and retention. Effective operations, there was a significant interest in translating the science to the field. The misconceptions out there about what UL's work is meaning to the fire service are just pervasive. It's toxic. I interact with Steve Kerber and his crew fairly regularly, and I've actually attended their training, and I haven't sat through anything yet that said this is to prevent you from going inside and fighting a building fire. This information is to make you a smarter interior firefighter. Yet, I know my own experience in Charleston, and when I went back to the Spartanburg burns, visited some stations, and the first words out of their mouth was, "Well, I guess we'll never be able to go in again." So what do you mean? And dealing with that mindset of, I'm not going to get educated, I'll just hold my opinion, is going to be pretty critical. On the health and safety side, PFAS are also a big element there. They will probably continue to be. It surrounds us. I know there's a Worcester firefighter and wife who are very big on making the case for PFAS and PFAS. IFF is doing a lot of work in that as well. And then just in general, cancer presumption laws across the country are coming under scrutiny. You're trying to get them aligned. If you have the misfortune of contracting cancer in some places, you're taken care of for life. And if you have the misfortune of contracting cancer in other places, you're on your own. And that's heartbreaking, some of the stories that we've heard. So those are kind of the 3 top elements there. Like I mentioned, the health and safety group had the fewest number of recommendations for research. Not that there weren't any, but there was a sense that we've made some great strides. I do think physicals for the volunteer fire service are going to be a major research project. How do we convince the volunteer fire service that physicals are in their best interest? And then how do we find a way to pay for them? Because a lot of departments are pretty poor and can barely afford to put fuel in the truck.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm listening to a meeting right now.
So hope that answered the question.
Yes.
No, it sure did, Chief. I really appreciate it. I know that there's at least one more question out here. Jeff Greenwald with NAMBA, the North American Modern Building Alliance, has a question for you.
Yeah, Carl, thank you. And Chief, my name is Jeff Greenwald, and I'm with an industry trade association. And in October, we saw a presentation by the Cancer Firefighter Support Network. And in that discussion, they talked about PPE and making sure that they're advising firefighters to keep it clean. He mentioned also separate shower facilities. I'm just curious about what kind of overlapping programs your group might have for advice on that issue.
Well, I'd say we're interested in any initiative that will support a firefighter's longevity. One of our mottos is, we hope you live as long as you fought fires, at least as long after you fight fires, to celebrate what it was like to be a firefighter. We have some interaction with folks from station design, and I know that in the couple of stations I was working on when I worked in Montgomery County and Charleston, we were taking those elements really seriously. In the early phases, just keeping the turnout gear out of the living quarters was important. And then the later station designs that we had separate gear lockers that were ventilated to the outside with their own air supplies, and then laundry facilities in the station, so the crews didn't have to go through a cycle of waiting for the gear to come back. They could actually wash it in the firehouse and have it ready within minutes, and the second set of gear. So, that's we were very fortunate in Montgomery County and Charleston to have the support of the local government to supply that funding for those programs. But we know all departments aren't like that. And I think our effort would be to showcase departments that have those elements in place, and get the feedback from the firefighters that are actually using them.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Chief Reed, I think that's it for the questions.
Great. Thank you, Chief Tippett, for your presentation. A lot of great work, and with the thoughtfulness of the research group and how that is going to be able to inform and educate across the country once the report comes out, and the continued work. So thank you very much for all the efforts that you and everyone there have been doing. We look forward to getting more of that information.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Sure.
opportunity, and just want to remind everybody, we'll be sending out invitations for the Firefighter Life Safety Summit coming up in San Antonio. So keep your email open and watch out for those coming up as well. We'd love to have some of you attend and participate in that.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, all.
Thank you. So we'll move forward on the agenda. I will save a couple of remarks that I have for later in the agenda, but I will open it up if anyone has any additions or corrections to the agenda. Hearing none, I will I don't know if I need to ask for an approval of the agenda, so I will move on to the approval of the minutes. With the agenda that you received, you got the meeting minutes for the November 18th meeting. So I will entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion for approval of the meeting minutes. It's
Thank you. I hear a motion from Kara, and then do I hear a second?
Second, Mark Wassom.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move forward on to the work group update. Member recruitment, Andy King, Gary West.
Okay, so Andy's here in the room with me, but he nominated me to make a report. So, and this may be my last official report. But as far as membership goes, we are having scheduled meetings. I don't think we had one this past month. We don't really have a lot to report, but that committee is going to get better and better as time goes on. So
Great, thank you very much. Emerging issues and trends. I see Michael's on. I don't know that Tim is on. So Michael, do you have a report for us?
Sure, thank you very much. We did not meet in the month of December. We will be meeting in January and start our monthly group meetings back up. We did submit our annual report and our 2022 goals. And so I would just take this opportunity to offer, if anybody wants to join our emerging issue and trends group, let Christine know or contact me directly, and we'd love to have you participate. But a lot of good things are going to be happening in 2022 with this group. So stand by with us.
Great, thank you. Public awareness, Steve? I don't know if Steve was here, but I don't know if he dropped. He was driving. I don't see him, so we will skip him for now and then see if he comes back. And training and education, Mark.
Good afternoon, everybody. Short update for me as well. We had a couple of meetings, but very light attendance. So like Michael said, we're going to regroup and start fresh in January. Probably look for a new meeting date and time that works better for everyone. We've started working on our goals, but we'll have to finalize those at the first of the year and get everything going again. So as was said, we'd be happy to have members join our group as well. We've got some big goals and dreams and could use some help moving towards those. So please reach out. That's all I've got, Chief.
Great, thank you. All right, so moving on to item number 5, reports from the officers. Our governing committee board liaison director, Sayers. Good morning or afternoon.
Good morning, Chief Reed, and happy to be here. Good to see a couple other board members on the call as well. Just share a few things. The board did meet for our winter board meeting in Solvang, California, just this past week. Had a great meeting. We were able to approve the budget for the 22 to 24. We also approved some new committee members, the Codes and Standards Committee, IAS, and others. We had the distinct pleasure of having General Tony Zinni address us during the workshop on the second day. If you ever have a chance to listen to General Zinni speak, he's absolutely amazing. I can't say enough about actually I can't really come up with words. It was interesting to see someone just sit there and speak with no notes, no overhead, no help other than just what was in his head, and the amount of things that he was able to share was just incredible. His leadership abilities and the things that he can share about leadership are really awesome. So if you ever get the chance, make sure you take it. I think Director Metz and Brown could agree with me 100% on that, as well as the rest of the board. The board is having a retreat in February, something we don't always do, but it's going to be a great opportunity. After all that time of not meeting and then getting geared back up, it's good for us to get back together and really kind of, I guess, get into each other's heads a little bit and learn how we can best work together for the organization. So I think it's a really great opportunity. I sat in on a fire hardening webinar that was put on by the Oregon Building Codes Division. It was basically just learning what DCD was doing as far as how they were providing funds for fire hardening, for home replacements, home repairs, There were a lot of questions that came up. You know, is there partial hardening available? Or accessory buildings considered? And what about multiple structures? There were questions about rented versus owned. And they did say that the grants go directly to owners, not to renters. The grant plan is to partner with local counties and jurisdictions. And, you know, so there's still a lot of questions out there of how all this is going to work. They're supposed to start processing applications February 1st. So hopefully this stuff is, you know, going to be happening soon. It's, you know, the tragedy, you all know this, but the tragedies of these Western fires is just unprecedented. And you know, I think Director Metz could speak to this for certain. But I'm glad to see that there's work being done. It does need to be moved along. There's a lot of people out there that are still searching for things like. And here's an interesting question that came up was what about generators for what if you don't have power? Maybe you weren't affected. Your home wasn't burned or damaged, but you don't have power. What about generators and how about those kind of things? So there's all kinds of different questions. There's a lot going on with that. I just wanted to share that I was able to attend that. Building Safety Month coming up, you know, in May. The theme is Safety for All, Codes and Actions. One other thing, the deadline for code change proposal coming up quickly, January 10th. So make sure if you've got anything in the hopper that you get that going. And I will quit rambling now. And if Directors Metz or Brown have anything to add, I'll let them take over for me.
I'll add a couple items there, Jim, just to bring some attention to some fire-specific things from our board meeting. The board did make some approval changes to our Fcap committee. Michael Bryan has completed his long tenure as chair, and the board did approve Robert Marshall as the new chair of the Fire Code Action Committee. Kara Grzinski, one of our governing committee members, has also been appointed to the FCAC, as well as Kevin Reinertson, who's also on the call. So we do have some really great representation on Fire Code Action Committee and a lot of tie-ins back with Fire Service Membership Council. We also did approve a change for the 2024 code cycle, which will be developing the 2027 code, which will change up the hearing process and create a completely new committee action hearing process that you'll hear more about. The Long-Term Code Development Committee did bring that forward to us. We did have a lot of discussion about it, and we did approve that. That was actually also reported by the Long-Term Code Development Committee this morning, and you will hear more about that. It will not affect the Group B code hearing process this year, but when next time Group A is heard in 2024, it will be under a completely new process on how code or committee action hearings and public comment hearings are heard to create the 2027 code. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
You guys let me know.
Sorry, I was on mute. Do you have anything else that you would like to say as well?
You know, I think Jim and Randy really covered it. They stole all my thunder. They did a great job, and I love them. So I'll, the only other thing I can think of, my apologies for missing the last Fire Service Membership Council meeting. I had other obligations with ICC, and I'm sure you understand that. Great to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you as well. All right, we will move forward to the report from the chair. So I just have a couple of comments. First, I wanted to thank everyone for your participation in work groups and meetings, the governing committee members, our guests, members of the audience that attend these meetings every month. It has been our goal to make them effective and productive for all of you who are choosing to spend your time with us. So thank you very much for all of your participation and your support. We're looking forward to continuing all of that in 2022. As some of the work groups were mentioning, they are working on their 2022 committee goals. So if your committee has not turned them in yet, if you can finish them by the end of this month, that would be very helpful for Carl, so that he can continue developing the annual report. And then we'll be able to speak more about those goals in the coming months. The last thing was I wanted to mention we have at least a couple of new committee members. So we're going to be doing a bit of a review to the committee members that are participating in different work groups, committee members that may not have been very active in some of the work groups that we want to envelop everyone on the governing committee to be participating in work groups, as well as anyone that is not on the governing committee but attends our meetings or has an interest in any of the work groups. Like has been said previously today, please don't hesitate to let any of us know so that we can add you to the work group email distribution list, and you can start joining us for the mid-month meetings that all of the committees have. That is all I would like to say at this point. I did notice that Vice Chair Tim Deal, he just recently joined us, so I don't want to put you on the spot, Tim, if you're not ready, but opening up to you if you have any comments.
No, not right now. Yeah, I finally managed to jump on. So I'm kind of driving in between places, so I'll keep it, I will echo your sentiments and just look forward to the next year. And I'll have a little bit more information on the performance code later on. But that's really it for right now.
Great, thank you. Carl, your staff report.
Thanks, Chief. I just put the information for this month's ICC Government Relations Chapter Monthly Update in the chat. So you'll be able to see where I'm drawing this information from, and there's going to be a little bit more detail in it. So just wanted to cover a couple things here today. FEMA BRIC is the first one up for me. FEMA BRIC program, as you have heard about, is open and applications are being accepted through January the 28th. I will caveat that deadline by saying that some states have earlier deadlines. So I would check specifically with the state or territory or tribe that you're in. Let's see, who do we have to mute here? I can just ask everybody to mute. That would be great. So that's the update on BRIC. So get your applications in. There's $1 million available in each state, territory, and tribe for codes this year. So don't leave that on the table if there's a project that you were interested in getting done that you haven't been able to fund. As you can see, I'm in the office today. Sarah Yerkes, as you know, has announced her retirement. Today is really her last official day in the office. So sadly, she's packing up her office, but also going to be hosting a holiday party here and a bit of a kind of a retirement farewell party today as well too. So we're rallying here in the DC office for Sarah on her last day, and I'll see if I can get her to pop in here before we are done with the meeting today. Group B deadline is January the 10th. So if you've got Group B code change proposals, need to get them in by January the 10th. Also, the preliminary results from Group A have been published, and I believe that those were, I guess I'll ask Director Sayers or Director Metz, Director Brown, believe that those, have those been ratified by the board now at your meeting, or are they still preliminary? Let everybody
I'm
answer at once.
sorry. Yeah, my apologies. And I didn't quite catch the question, and I'm looking at
Yep.
our agenda from last week. If you would repeat the question.
Yep, so the preliminary results from 2021 Group A online governmental consensus vote are available. And that was part of our update. I didn't know if, as part of your board proceedings, if those were actually ratified at the board meeting this last weekend. No, not yet.
I'm looking on the consent agenda. Wait a minute, ratification
Yep.
of membership council.
I'm
election
seeing
results,
head
yeah.
shake no's from Director Sayers and Director Metz, so that might help you, Director Brown. Thank you. I just figured I would ask since we had three of you on the phone, so more to come on that. And then let's see, I know that I had, the last one here. I know that Chief Clay is on the phone today, and I saw your message in there too, so you'll be glad to hear that the Code Council put in a letter of support to committee and to Congresswoman Lofgren's office regarding the National Wildland Fire Risk Reduction Program Act. So that was introduced in October in the House. It would basically create a federal interagency program for wildland fire that would bring together essentially the full strength of the federal government to be able to support the wildland fire risk, just as you see with other hazards such as the National Earthquake Hazard Reduction Program and others that have been developed over the years. So we're not so certain that it's got a Senate counterpart quite yet, but it is winding its way through on the Hill, and we're going to continue to monitor that. And we've also supported that with all effort and done our very best to make sure that not only FEMA, but more importantly, the United States Fire Administration has a leadership role in this and would be appropriated as needed. So the last thing that I have is I do know that as part of the board proceedings this last weekend, there were some changes to membership councils along with the ones that Director Metz mentioned on the Fire Code Action Committee. So on the call today, we actually have State Fire Marshal Gary Farley from Tennessee joining us, as well as State Fire Marshal Doug Nelson from the state of North Dakota on with us, and they will be assuming the chairs that will be vacated by Chief West and Kelly Nicolello here on behalf of the National Association of State Fire Marshals come the first of the year. So welcome to you both. Glad to have you and looking forward to working with you. And the next year, we'll make sure we do more proper introductions at our next meeting. That's the conclusion of my report. Back to you, Chief Reed.
Great, thank you, Carl. And again, welcome to you new members. Looking forward to working with you all. Okay, so going on to new business, we have some bittersweet presentations that I'd like to recognize. Chief Gary West, this is his last meeting. He has completed his tenure on the governing committee. And if you were in attendance of our last, which was kind of a virtual and in-person FSMC meeting, we were able to recognize Gary a little bit further, but we did send him a token of our appreciation, to which I understand, Gary, you have with you. We told him not to open it until today. So for more, I'd like to turn it over to Director Randy Metz, who served with Gary the longest in the leadership positions of the membership council, to see if he'd like to have anything that he'd like to say, and then ask Gary to open his gift.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, I had the opportunity to serve under Gary for 2 years as his vice chair. I learned a lot from Gary, a wealth of knowledge, an outstanding career in the fire service, and a great quiet contributor to the Fire Service Membership Council. Gary, we didn't have an opportunity last year when your tenure as chair ended to properly recognize you, and we wanted to take this opportunity now that we're out of COVID a little bit there. We were able to do the traditional chair gift for you. So I believe you have a box that I'd like you to go ahead and open and accept this as a token of our appreciation for your, long tenure. You were on the membership council for what, about 6 or 7 years at least?
I think it was 8.
8. Okay.
And maybe a little bit longer because of COVID.
Yeah, I think you got an extra year in there somewhere. So, almost 9 years of service to the membership council. I came on before Gary was appointed to the vice chair position, and was fortunate enough to see him move into that position and then succeed Scott Adams as the chair, and has really done a great job leading this group. He's a little bit more reserved than some of us are, and that actually was a good balance for those of us that seem to get ahead of ourselves sometimes, and Gary brings a lot to the table. We're very fortunate for the role that he has now with NFSA, and he has really served the National Association of State Fire Marshals well on this committee here, and we're going to miss you. It's kind of weird for me because this is the first time in 5 years that I've not participating as a member of the governing committee as well. But I hope you remain active and a participant now that you're not on the GC as a participating member. And we look forward to your continued involvement with our national process here for ICC.
Yeah, and I say thank you, Randy. It's been a pleasure. There's been a lot of good times. There's been a few times it was a little bit trying, but we got through all of that. And Christine, it's been great to work with you also. And it's been a privilege and an honor. I think that back years ago, it was a little bit difficult when I first came on to understand exactly what this group does. But over the years, that's been well defined, and I think today it's a great thing. And wherever I go, I recommend to the fire service to be a part of this, to join the cause, and I hope to continue to participate. And so I just say thank you. And Christine, I was going to open the box after you said open the box, but I'm here with Andy King and Gary Farley. And so Andy opened the box and he's sitting here beside of me, nudging me. So I think he wants to hand me this. So yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And this is a big honor. This means a lot to me to have participated and to have been the chair of this committee. So thank you all. Thank you all for everything.
And thank you, Andy, for doing the official presentation.
Yes. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, Gary, just from me as well, thank you very much for all of your support. And like Randy said, you were the one that kind of circled us back around when we were a bit active in our conversations and really made us think again. And I learned a lot from you. And even though you're not technically on the governing committee, I look forward to seeing you at our future Fire Service Membership Council meetings and to continue to get your input and support for the Membership Council. So thank you very much. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up from people. Great, thank you. Okay, the next special recognition, I'd like to recognize Randy Metz for his contributions and efforts to the Fire Service Membership Council. Randy was just newly on the council not too long before he and I had conversations about me participating on the council and having many discussions with him and Carl about what the future of the membership council is. And Randy has always been so supportive and within his leadership of vice chair and then going on to be chair, and now as an ICC director. I'm just so happy and excited for you, and really hope that you continue your participation with us. You're very passionate about the fire service, and it rubs off. And I think we continue to have a lot to learn from you. So, so with that, I do understand that you received a box in the mail as well. I don't know if you've opened it yet, but whether you have or haven't, if you can show us what was in the box. And it's a bit blurry because I think you have the blur background on.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's your the certificate we give people when they term out, and I want to thank Carl and Carla for thinking of me, and this is the bittersweet process of being elected to the board means that I can't participate in the same level as I have in the past in organizations like the membership council. So having to give up my GC seat is just that. I will continue to participate as a member. Don't want to step on Jim's toes because he is your board liaison there, but know that I'll be participating as a member of the fire service. And I have the awesome opportunity to be the liaison to the building membership council and work with Ed and Mark Matheny. Another council that I've had a lot of experience with and a lot of partnership with over the last couple of years. So I get to continue just in a different role and actually be more involved in both groups now. So thank you very much to you, to Carl, to Gary. It's been a great opportunity and a great ride for the last 5 years, but it's time to move on. So you're not getting rid of me.
That's okay.
Hey,
Thank you.
Christine.
Yes.
Christine, this is Jim, if I could.
Sure, absolutely.
I just wanted to mention that your loss is absolutely, without a doubt, our gain on the board. It's great to have Randy there.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Jim.
Great. Thank you again. And then our last recognition is for Kelly Nicolello. I don't think Kelly made it to the meeting this morning. If I'm seeing that right, Carl?
No, you're correct, Christine. And I do have some information too, because I did text with him. It's
Great.
rare that we don't see Kelly Nicolello on this meeting. For those of you that are regulars, and many or most of you are, you know that Kelly is pretty much the guy that's always here. So I reached out to him, as we do in the fire service, just to kind of check the welfare and see how he was doing. So he replied back to me a short while ago and said, "Sorry, I had to make an emergency run to California. I left yesterday at 4 p.m. and got here at 7 a.m. I'm helping out a friend. It's been a while since I pulled an all-nighter. Everything is good, and I'll be headed back home to Texas tomorrow." So, and then he finished by saying Merry Christmas to all. Thanks, and I'll call in next month. So that's what we do in the fire service. That is what we do with our families and our extended family here at the Code Council, and then in the fire service as well. So glad to know that that's what he's up to and that he's safe. And I'll let you kind of take it from here, Keith.
Great. Thank you for that update, Carl. For those of you that aren't aware too much about Kelly's tenure, Kelly is also another one that termed out of the membership council governing committee member. But like Carl said, he's always on the calls. I don't doubt that he will continue to be supportive to the membership council. We'll miss him being on the governing committee, but we know that we'll still gain his support and guidance as we go into the coming years. So we just wanted to recognize Kelly as well for this would have been his last meeting. So the last item of new business is actually a bit more formal. It's the governing committee chair and vice chair elections. So for that, I'd like to turn it over to the chair of the nomination committee, Mike Desrochers.
Thank you very much, Chair Reed. So to avoid any perceived or real conflict of interest, I've been asked to facilitate the election of the 2022 Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee officers. Last month, the Fire Service Membership Council Nominating Committee submitted the following names for consideration to lead the Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee in calendar year 2022. Christine Reed as chair and Timothy Deal as vice chair. So at this time, I will ask, are there any other nominations from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor?
This is Kara. I move to close nominations.
Hearing no other nominations from the floor, I hereby declare nominations closed and request a motion to elect Christine Reed as chair and Timothy Deal as vice chair of the 2022 Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee. Do I have a motion?
This is Gary West. I'm make that motion.
This is Kara. I second it.
And we have a second from Kara. So there is a motion and a second on the floor to elect Christine Reed as chair and Timothy Deal as vice chair of the 2022 Fire Service Membership Council Governing Committee. Governing committee members in favor, please by signifying yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Those members opposed, please signify your vote by saying nay. All right, so the A's have the votes, so congratulations to Christine Reed and to Timothy Deal.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone. I know I'm excited to start a brand new year. We have a lot of great things going, and I'm excited to be able to help continue our successes. So Tim, I just want to open up if you would like to say anything.
No, I agree. Thank you very much. I finally made it to home. So I'm looking forward to this year also working with Christine and the rest of the council and the new members on the council and really moving forward faster than we did in 21. So we can get this COVID thing behind us and do some more in-house meetings. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so the next item is opening it up for questions or comments from the audience. I would like to, before we get to the general audience, I'd like to give an opportunity to either Ed Lazinski or Mark Matheny to say a few words, if you wish, from the Building Membership Council.
Sure, thanks, Christine. Yeah, Ed Lazinski here. Heck of a meeting here to be at, you know, honoring both Gary and Randy, who were instrumental working with the BMC over the last couple of years here. We did a lot of great things together, and you know, just happy to be here to see them both honored, and thank you both for everything that you guys did for us. And then also obviously Christine and Tim. Looking forward to more great things coming up here in the future. So, you know, looking forward to, you guys have big shoes to fill. And I know you're both very capable of it. You know, Tim's obviously been working with us as our BMC liaison for a few years now. So, yeah, it's you guys have a great group here. And yeah, we have to, you know, kind of share Randy for a little while, but I'm sure he's up for working in both realms here. So, yeah, you know, for BMC, you know, we're just kind of getting reset, kind of like you guys are, kind of relaying out our subcommittees and everything like that. Looking forward to a big 2022. Mark Matheny's here. He's going to be our new vice chair, and then I'll be the new chair for this year. And actually, we also have Tom Allen on. He's going to be the new BMC liaison to the Fire Service Membership Council. And so actually, yeah, Tom, if you want to jump in there and say hi, and Mark as well. I'll shut up here and let you guys jump in there.
All right.
Mark, you're not that shy.
I was gonna say they're being shy today.
Yeah, you're either both on mute, and I saw Mark's mouth moving, so.
I think Tom's trying to talk, but he's muted. And I'll just very quick. That was just a great summary, Ed, and I just ditto all of that. Congratulations to everyone through this day. It's certainly a good day to be part of this meeting. So thanks. Look forward to some great work ahead of us.
And thank you all. I look forward to working with you all again. I've been a member of the Fire Service Membership Council for a long time. Worked with you all when I was at ICC, and even before that as a BOMC member back in the day. So I look forward to working with you all and bringing the two councils, bringing the communication between the two councils.
Great, thank you. With that, I'll open it up to the audience if you have any questions, comments. Anyone?
Hey, Christine, I mean, I was on the road coming from a doctor's appointment, so I apologize for being late. But I did want to kind of go over the interest in the performance codes again. Brian Meacham has put a group together, several work groups right now to do roundtables to see the interest and the level of kind of updating the performance code. And there is an ICC performance code. It's not very big. I think most of us are more experienced in the building code and alternative measures. So there was a group of us that met Monday from the fire service. They're each individual groups. I know Mark is on the building, and there are several other groups. Sustainability, I think, is one. Just a whole array of different industries that he's bringing together to look at it from different points of view. And so we had members from the fire service there, myself, Dwayne Garris, who we're all very familiar with. Jennifer Holt is with Massachusetts Fire Marshal. Robert Davison, who we're also very familiar with from the code hearings, is on there. Jonathan Lund, who is a fire marshal from Des Moines, Iowa, as well as Steve Winkle, California. You all are very familiar with him. Dan Nichols from the East, another ICC member, very involved. John Naza from Minnesota is also on the committee. And Greg Rogers, who is from Spokane, Washington. So we all had about an hour and a half meeting. A lot of it, I think what it came down to is we felt like there was really a lack of education on both sides between designers and the fire service in general about the performance code, the knowledge of the performance code and how to apply it. So I think that's one of the key things that came out of it. Another item that was key for the fire service was we deal with the performance. We don't really have good units to start with, good analytical data that is now forthcoming. When the performance code was developed, everybody was a standard 5,000 kW fire. We know we don't have those now. We have higher, more intense fires. So that was another big topic that we came out is that, you know, the performance code, where do we start with the data? How do we use the data? Where does the data come from? You know, so between that and each approach is different. So there's going to be another meeting probably later on. Then what will happen is all these work groups will come together for several days, workshops and exchange of information to try to lay out a path forward for the performance code and whether it needs to be updated, whether it gets updated, or do we just kind of take the performance code and put it into the other codes in different chapters. So I don't know when the next meeting is going to be. Hopefully after the first of the year, before the February or March workshops. So I just wanted to give a real quick update there. There will be more to come as these things evolve. We'll get more, you know, we'll see more about it and learn more about it, and hopefully we'll all pick up the interest and kind of take a look at it. So I just wanted to put that out there, as well as yesterday, the Global Membership Council had their emerging trends meeting, which I sat in on also. A couple of topics that came from there, and it's going to be something I know that Mike, your committee, we'll be looking at that, maybe trying to work with them a little bit closer also. So anyway, thanks for the time. Sorry for the late update.
No, thank you very much. And thank you for your participation on the work group, and look forward to hearing more information about that as it comes out. Anyone else have any questions or comments for the group?
I have something, Christine.
Sure. Yes, Randy.
More something for you and the governing committee to consider in your January meeting. Michael O'Brien is running for second vice president of the IAFC. Michael has been a huge supporter of codes and standards and really has brought the IAFC on board. He's chaired our Fire Code Action Committee for probably the last 6 years or so. And I just wanted to put a consideration before you to possibly have an endorsement letter from the Fire Service Membership Council be considered, not from ICC board, but from your council, to support Mike's bid in becoming the second VP of the IAFC. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Randy. Yep. Anyone else? All right, hearing none. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just want to, again, thank you all for your participation throughout this entire year and everything that's been going on in our country. And you are still making it a priority to be a part of the FSMC. So thank you again for that. I'll just close by saying I wish everyone very happy holidays. And hopefully you are able to celebrate as you wish in a safe but family side manner. So if there's no other comments, then I will open it up for a motion to adjourn. Does everyone want to stick around?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Hear motion. Do I hear a second? I'm sorry. Did I hear Brian? Did I hear you say second? Great. All right. I don't think we have any discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you again in 2022. All right. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Happy holiday.